So I did end up going to see the Marvels today. I did make some time for it, and I'll still be coming back later tonight to give you my review of the Low Key Season 2 finale. So that's going to be later tonight right here on World of Geekdom. But I want to talk about the Marvels here. Welcome to my non-spoiler review of the film. I'm going to go through the newest MCU film, one that is looking to be a huge flop, and let me tell you, it does not surprise me. Look, we're going to talk about it here on this video. Again, non-spoiler. Don't worry about me going into anything too descriptive of the plot. I'm going to start by saying this. I am legitimately flabbergasted. I'm legitimately shocked that somebody at Disney, at Marvel, watched this movie all the way through and said, you know what? That's good. Put it out. I cannot believe what I've just seen. And I literally got out of the theater about 10 minutes ago. I'm home now. I am in shock. Like, you have to understand, this movie, there's so much, I have so much to say. Well, okay. First, let me talk about the good. Okay, I'm going to talk about the good, but I want to say this before we get into criticizing the film. If your biggest problem with this movie is, quote, something political or wokeness or any of that garbage, dude, you might have political brainworms. Listen, I watched this entire movie looking at and looking for anything like that, and this movie at no point paints men as being inferior to women or any of that stuff that people complained about. That's not the problem with this movie, dude. There are serious issues with this film that go way beyond anything political. So you guys should know by now when I do these reviews, I don't come in just screaming woke, woke, woke and all that stuff. That's not what I do. I look at this from a perspective of somebody who likes movies, who enjoys film, and who wants to have a good time. I understand that Brie Larson made some cringe comments. I understand that she's a walking lol cow. I get all that. I get it. That has nothing to do with this movie. This movie was put together by a lot of people, and let me tell you, this has to be the worst put together film in the history of the Disney Marvel era. I mean, it's bad. Let me first get to the good, though, and then we're going to go into the bad. The good. Kamala Khan is a freaking adorable character. She was the highlight of this movie. I enjoyed all of her scenes. The actress that plays her, which is Iman Vellani, is an absolute treat to see on screen. She's got a beautiful smile. She's energetic. She's vibrant. She plays the character the way she should. She has a little arc in this movie. Like, the Kamala Khan stuff with her and her family was great. I enjoyed that the best. Now, when it comes to Monica Rambeau and Carol Danvers, they obviously have a story that, you know, they have their like little history or whatever, and that is addressed in this film. It is kind of a bit of an emotional story point in the movie. However, it was nowhere near being explored the way it should have been. In fact, that's a big problem with this movie I'm going to get to in a minute when I go to the bad section. The other thing, too, is that the movie is very colorful. Lots of, you know, there are lots of creativity with some of the fights. So it does have that going for it. But that's about where the good ends. First and foremost, okay, the writing in this movie, this script, I don't know how the hell this script was approved. There are scenes, as I'm watching this movie, I'm thinking to myself, there has to be more to this movie. There have to be scenes that were cut out. I know there were reshoots, but this movie feels incomplete. This movie is what happens when you take the worst aspects of movies like The Rise of Skywalker and Love and Thunder and put it together. The script is an absolute mess. Things just happen, and then we're supposed to be waiting for a resolution to a certain scene. We don't get the resolution. It just goes to the next thing. Like, okay, well, I guess we're done with that. That happens at least 5 times in the movie. And then, besides the script being bad, the editing is also bad. It jumps around, it thrusts you right into the story, and then you think it's going to slow down to kind of catch its breath. No, the pacing here was literally like Rise. Remember how I said in my Rise of Skywalker review how that movie was basically a bunch of decent to cool scenes cobbled together? This is like that, except very few scenes in this movie are actually decent or cool. A lot of the scenes in this movie are just bad. I feel so bad for Samuel L. Jackson. Nick Fury did nothing in this movie. You could have cut him out of the movie and it would have been the same thing. Brie Larson, again, putting aside all of her real life controversies, she plays Carol Danvers really weird in this movie. She tries to be quirky. She always has her eyes open really wide, like, almost like a cartoon character. Like, this movie felt like an hour and 45-minute Saturday morning cartoon, but not a good one. It didn't feel like X-Men. And by the way, I should mention, part of the good is the mid-credit scene. The mid-credit scene, which I talked about the other day on the channel, is cool. But man, did this movie not deserve that mid-credit scene. It did not deserve it. Brie Larson plays Carol Danvers in a very weird way, to where she seems to be almost like she's high in a couple scenes, right? And then other scenes she tries to be funny and it doesn't work. And so the emotional tone in this movie is so disjointed. There are moments where you have these really powerful scenes between Carol Danvers and Monica Rambeau based on what happened in the first movie with Maria Rambeau and Carol Danvers, not being there for Monica. And then you go into like a joke, and then you go back to like it being emotional, and the movie never gives you time to breathe. The thing that's crazy about this movie, y'all, is that I felt as I was watching it that inside of all the BS, inside of all of this, terrible film, there's a good movie in here. Meaning that I think there might be another cut of this movie out there that's actually good, because some of the ideas in the movie were actually decent ideas. I like the fact that Carol Danvers as Captain Marvel feels guilty because she can't save everyone. I like the fact that Monica Rambeau's kind of mixed on her, not really sure how to handle because of their past. And I like how Kamala is the fangirl, but she ends up meeting her hero, and at first, it's not a very good first impression. There's a lot of really good ideas in this movie that, if you had a better script and a better filmmaker, no offense to Nia DaCosta, but she blew it on this one, if she even was the one that made these decisions, because sometimes the studio steps in, don't forget that. But my God, like, these characters, there was potential, and it just was blown. I cannot believe this movie actually made it to theaters. The script, I'm telling you right now, dude, there are people who are in the 8th grade that could write more competent scripts. There's no story at all. There's no, like there's story elements. There's something going on, but there's not really like an ongoing story. It does feel like a 30-minute Saturday morning cartoon that goes nowhere, and even those had stories. And this movie has, without question, the worst villain in MCU history, dude. Boring, dude. You thought Ronan the Accuser was one-dimensional? Dar-Ben is the way that she behaves, her powers, her facial expressions. She was played by Zawe Ashton. I hope I said the name right. And as I'm watching the film, it felt like she wanted to be anywhere else but there. You know what I mean? It just wasn't a good performance, and the character is ultimately just boring. Things happen in the movie, and it's never given time to breathe. Even like the introduction of how the three Marvels got together. And again, this has nothing to do with gender, dude. I don't care if it was 3 women, 3 men, 3 talking dogs, trans people, 2 women, 1 man, 1 woman, 2 men. It doesn't matter. These 3 characters could have been written great. It could have actually worked. I could see this movie working, but it just didn't. The editing, like, there's a sequence like early in the movie where they clearly show that Miss Marvel and Monica are in a life or death situation, and they don't even pay off how they were able to get out of it. And then there is a song and dance sequence in the middle of this movie that I know is going to get lambasted by every reviewer. I understand some might like it, but oh my God, this song and dance sequence It reminded me of the one that was in the extended cut of Ghostbusters 2016 with Chris Hemsworth, you know, doing the dance with all the ghosts. That was so cringe. Where I was embarrassed to be in the movie theater. I feel so bad for Samuel L. Jackson, dude. This man has had a hell of a career and a really bad 2023, dude. A really bad 2023. The song and dance sequence in this movie was so cringe. Like, it was embarrassing. Yo, I cannot believe this movie actually came out like this. It almost feels like at one point when they were editing the film or reshooting it, they were like, you know what? Just put it out the way it is and let's just wash our hands of it and move on to Echo and Deadpool. That's how this felt. That's how it felt, because there had to have been scenes that were missing, scenes were trimmed up. It was a shorter movie than usual. There are things that are addressed that aren't really fleshed out at all. There's a moment near the end of the film where one of the characters is about to make a sacrifice and there's just no emotion. They tried to get the emotion out of you, but it just didn't connect, man. And let me tell you, earlier this week, I rewatched Iron Man 1, 2, and Avengers, and then I watched Infinity War and Endgame. And those movies got emotion out of me. I felt something for Tony Stark and his growth and just fantastic writing. Here, you don't feel anything. You don't connect with anybody except Kamala. Because Kamala is that inner fanboy or fangirl, whatever you prefer to be referenced, who is hanging out with her heroes and doing the best she can. But also, what didn't make sense in the movie is, at one point, she's not really accustomed to her powers. Then all of a sudden, she's like a professional. She goes from being like, to use the Star Wars analogy, she's first holding a lightsaber for the first time in her life, like Luke did in A New Hope, to within the same movie, within maybe even the next scene, she's doing these elaborate martial arts moves to where you think that she's been like an experienced hero for years. It was so disjointed. Like, the movie is so just, it's messy. It is a mess. I'm going to say something controversial. I know a lot of people don't like Brie Larson. I actually felt bad for her watching this movie, because this movie was, I mean, there were, oh, what a mess, bro. This movie was so poorly executed. It's almost like, it makes me wonder if that Batgirl movie that DC deleted, this one should have been deleted. You know what I mean? Ultimately, I never want to watch this movie again. Like, there's no reason for me to watch it again. There was nothing interesting. The villain was boring. I like Kamala Khan. I'll watch her adventures. And I like what they're building to with her in the future. She's a lovable character. And I do like Monica Rambeau to a degree. I liked her in WandaVision. But they just didn't do anything. This movie's actually disrespectful to even the comic book versions of Carol Danvers, Monica Rambeau, Kamala Khan, and of course Nick Fury. I cannot believe they put this movie out and expected us all to just say, oh, okay, that was fine. Is it better than the first movie? So there were aspects of this movie I liked more, mostly Kamala Khan. But I don't know, man. It probably was better than the first movie, but not by much. But at the same time, I can't even say that, because when I left the first movie, I didn't feel like this. So you know what? It isn't. This is probably the worst MCU movie ever. I told y'all, the other day I rewatched Iron Man 2. And you know Iron Man 2 gets a lot of shit from people. It's one of the more disliked movies. Bro, Iron Man 2 is The Empire Strikes Back compared to what they've given us with Phase 4 and 5. You think Iron Man 2 is bad? Go watch like Love and Thunder again, which I liked the first time I saw it, but I've had no desire to watch it again. The only one of these movies I've enjoyed more than once, believe it or not, was Ant-Man. I actually like that movie, genuinely, and No Way Home. And let me tell you this right now. I saw what the critics were saying about this movie. Listen to me right now. There is no question. Now, they cannot even deny it. These critics are lying to get access. There is no way that there is absolutely no way that you can criticize Ant-Man and the Wasp and Quantumania. You cannot criticize and dislike that movie and like this one. Because this movie did everything that movie did wrong times 10. I just don't like the critics already. I've told y'all this. They already have zero respect for me. That era is done. But to see all this positive turnout for the movie, so I'm thinking, okay, well maybe it'll be just mid, and I go see it, and it's actually horrible. And like I said, these are technical issues. There are technical problems. Nothing to do with politics or what. No, I don't care. There are technical writing and editing problems in this movie. Character problems. You know? And I left it thinking, this is what the MCU's become. It almost felt like a parody of the MCU. You know, it really felt like that. And yeah, some of the CGI was wonky. The scene with all the cats, dude, near the end, I'm not going to spoil it, but oh my God, that was just, like, imagine, like, the worst scenes of the Men in Black movies with superheroes. And I don't mean the first one, because that was a good one. I mean the Men in Black sequels that weren't that good. There were some, speaking of which, Tessa Thompson's in this movie. She's in the trailer. There are some cameos. But Marvel was really desperate to get you in the movie theater with their promotionals. And I saw some commercials that were straight up misleading. Showing scenes from Endgame and showing scenes of Iron Man, trying to get you to go see it because maybe we'll see something. No, dude. That was, how freaking dirty is that? Yeah, The Marvels is a piece of shit. Horrible movie. And it's nothing to do with politics. It's just poorly made. It's bad.